Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, air, restoration, and flood services for over 45 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Maya Tripolsi, and thank you for joining us. If you travel on freeways over the next several hours, you might notice more CHP officers than usual. And that is because we're in the middle of a maximum enforcement period. KPBS reporter John Carroll rode along with a CHP officer today to see how it's working.
State Route 52 at Santo Road, a place where traffic is usually pretty bad during rush hours. But midday, things are moving right along, a time when you're likely to see more drivers exceeding the speed limit.
If you are going over that 65-mile-an-hour speed limit, you can be stopped. It is a maximum speed limit. And then for our more rural areas, there is a maximum speed limit of 70 miles per hour, but it'll be posted.
Officer Jared Grieshaber is a 20-year veteran of the CHP. He usually works out of the agency's Border Division office, but during this maximum enforcement period, it's all hands on deck.
So even if you have, let's say, an office job where your primary duties aren't working patrol, we're going to have every officer out there enforcing and focusing on the speeders.
The maximum enforcement period began at 6 this morning, and it runs through 5:59 tomorrow morning. We rode along with Officer Grieshaber today, and it wasn't long before he was notified by another officer
85, that's GMC.
Of a speeder in the vicinity of the 15 and 163 interchange. The enforcement action is meant to cut down on speeding for sure, but in the bigger picture, it's meant to try and bring down the numbers of the pretty shocking amount of deaths and injuries that happen on California roadways every year.
We had over 400 deaths, which is, if you think about it, that's at least one a day, all contributed to the speeding. It doesn't take into factors, like DUI and all that other stuff, but that's just because of speeding. We had over 400 deaths and nearly 70,000 injuries because of speeding.
Statistics the CHP hopes are sobering enough to get folks to slow down, prevent injuries, save lives. John Carroll, KPBS News.
I'm Ariella Scalise, and coming up tonight under a partly cloudy sky, temperatures drop back to the middle 50s. Each day turns a little bit warmer here before we watch a cooler, somewhat showery pattern returning late this weekend and early next week.
Chula Vista residents are set to receive a first-of-its-kind report on police encounters with federal immigration agents. KPBS reporter Corey Suzuki says it could shed new light on how ICE and other agencies are conducting themselves in San Diego County's second-largest city.
The new ordinance requires Chula Vista officials to disclose any contact between federal immigration agents and local police. Specifically, the ordinance requires the city manager to give written reports to the city council at least twice a year. The city's police chief will also have to issue public incident reports every time officers respond to calls from ICE and other immigration agents.
And therein lies the scary part, is when I tell you I don't have a clear idea of what we're going to see.
Deputy Mayor Cesar Fernandez led the push for the ordinance. On Monday, he held a ceremonial signing.
I've known of and seen about a dozen actions in the city of Chula Vista in 2025, but I'm certain it's much more than that. So I think that it's going to be an eye-opener for myself and a lot of people in the city.
ICE has arrested 53 people in Chula Vista since President Donald Trump took office last year, according to the Deportation Data Project. That's up from previous years. Most of them have no criminal records. Fernandez says the city will publish their first report by the end of June. Corey Suzuki, KPBS News.
Kids living in Coronado are growing up with beautiful beach scenery, but they haven't been able to enjoy it due to the sewage crisis. So now they're fighting for change at the state capitol. The Stop the Sewage Club is the largest student-run club in Coronado Unified School District. In its 3 years, students have gotten the chance to work with local and state officials advocating for change in the South Bay.
I get to take action myself, so I can ensure that this problem is actually getting solved, so that when I grow up, my kids will have a healthy life and they can experience the beach in a way that my younger siblings never got to do.
We knew that people had a responsibility to go make their voices heard, and students should be no different than that. And this was our way of giving students a platform and an access point to that.
And during this trip, the students will be meeting with assembly members, state senators, and even the lieutenant governor. They will be in Sacramento for the next few days. College used to be a no-brainer if you wanted to achieve higher earnings, but now with affordability on top of mind, the staggering price for college and changing labor market dynamics, is college still a sound investment? Brian Abel breaks down today's higher education landscape.
It is true that the average cost of tuition has skyrocketed. Adjusted for inflation, the Education Data Initiative estimates the costs have gone up more than 17% in the past 20 years. But experts in education tell me that there is one other number that students should be looking at when considering college.
High school graduation season is almost here, and with it, some big decisions.
We estimate that of 2026 grads, about 46% are going to head to traditional four-year colleges.
Less than half, according to NerdWallet's analysis of federal data. Certainly a factor, the skyrocketing sticker price to go to college. U.S. News and World Report cites the 10 most expensive private colleges in the U.S. all have annual tuitions and required fees over $73,000 per year. That's not including books, supplies, or room and board. But that's likely not the true price, according to experts.
Most people do not pay that amount.
Instead, experts say, focus on the net price, factoring in financial aid.
Funds that you do not have to repay. So that's going to include grants, scholarships, and programs like work study.
Another factor when asking, is it worth it, is the return on investment. Economics professor at Wellesley College, Phil Levine, says it's an investment decision. And while nothing is guaranteed, there's a high probability of success.
We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of your life of higher earnings.
But experts also stress that college or no college is a personal decision, and it isn't for everyone.
A lot of it is about people knowing who they are, which I think mostly they do. If you really like working with your hands, a skilled trade is a great opportunity, and you should pursue that.
And like any investment, there is risk. You really are betting on yourself to a certain extent. But back to that sticker price versus net. Levine says it's really only the really high earning families that are paying that full sticker price, the price that has gone up. For everybody else, the net cost has actually decreased over the last few years. In Washington, Brian Abel reporting.
Up to half of all U.S. women will develop a condition called pelvic organ prolapse over their lifetime. But doctors say the subject remains taboo. The traditional procedure is considered invasive and involves a long hospital stay. But as Mandy Gaither reports, a newer robotic-assisted surgery allowed one woman to reclaim her life with a short recovery.
For Jane, it started with lower pelvic pressure, followed by urine leakage, and then a painful vaginal bulge.
Upon my own self-exam, I was able to feel it and realize that something was very, very wrong.
Eventually, Jane says her whole pelvic organ collapsed down to the rectum, causing bowel problems along with urinary issues. Her daily life, intimacy, and bodily functions became unmanageable.
It was about not having an accident, not putting myself into a situation where I couldn't get to a bathroom quickly.
The daily mental and emotional stress of this led her to a primary care doctor, then a gynecologist, who was able to diagnose Jane with a condition she didn't know she had: pelvic organ prolapse.
I think a lot of patients live with it because either they weren't educated that this is what's going on with their pelvic floor, or they were basically offered aggressive options for surgical repair.
Dr. Savitha Krishnan with El Camino Health says a newer option involving a robotic-assisted surgery is now replacing the once invasive procedure.
Pain scores are less because the port is not moving as much as you would with your traditional laparoscopy instruments. So they're able to go home same day.
One day after Dr. Krishnan performed the procedure on Jane, she says she was outside walking and back to her normal routine in about 2 weeks. For other women now suffering through the symptoms she no longer has, Jane says not to wait.
This was the greatest gift I gave myself.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
I'm Jeff Bennett. Tonight on the NewsHour, former FBI Director James Comey is indicted again, this time over a social media post. That's at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Britain's King Charles is visiting the U.S. this week for the first time as monarch. As Michael Yoshida reports, the long-planned trip coincides with an unusually delicate time between the U.S. and the U.K.
Pomp and circumstance as President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump welcome King Charles III and Queen Camilla to the White House. It's Charles' first state visit to the U.S. since ascending to the crown, and is part of celebrations commemorating America's 250 years of independence.
The soldiers who once called each other Redcoats and Yankees became the Tommies and the GIs who together saved the free world as brothers in arms and brothers in eternity.
The royal trip comes as Charles looks to steady U.S.-UK relations strained by the war in Iran, a tricky task because the king has no formal political role. Trump has criticized Prime Minister Keir Starmer's refusal to offer substantial military assistance.
The real challenge here is that the president has not just gone after policy differences with the existing British government and with Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister. He has gone after the fundamentals of the relationship by saying that NATO is useless.
King Charles then traveled to Capitol Hill to meet with congressional leadership and deliver a joint address reflecting on the two nations' shared history.
Whatever our differences, whatever disagreements we may have, we stand united in our commitment to uphold democracy, to protect all our people from harm, and to salute the courage of those who daily risk their lives in the service of our countries.
In Washington, Michael Yoshida, KPBS News.
The Justice Department says would-be assassin Cole Thomas Allen acted alone in Saturday's attack at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Donnie O'Sullivan reports on online speculation that both the shooting and a previous attempt on the president's life in Pennsylvania in July of 2024 were staged.
Just because Trump and his filth have lied to you about everything, every day for 11 years, that's no reason for you to get cynical and think that was staged.
As soon as gunshots were heard at the White House Correspondents' Dinner on Saturday night, conspiracy theories started spreading online. Posts like this one, with no evidence, claiming it was staged. A Fox News clip of the White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt also went viral.
It'll be funny, it'll be entertaining. There will be some shots fired tonight in the room, so everyone should tune in. It's going to be really great. I'm looking forward to hearing it.
This was to be President Trump's first time addressing the Correspondents' Dinner. Traditionally at the event, presidents poke fun at themselves and at the press. These jokes and jabs are clearly what Leavitt was referring to when she said shots fired.
I didn't want to say this, but this is why we have to have all of the attributes of what we're planning at the White House. We need the ballroom. That's why Secret Service, that's why the military are demanding it.
This statement from Trump, along with a bunch of posts online, had some people speculating that the whole thing had been a setup to justify the building of Trump's controversial ballroom on the White House complex. There is zero evidence to support this.
Just admit you staged it in Butler.
Saturday's attack came on the heels of renewed skepticism among some former Trump supporters about the Trump assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania.
I have obtained a copy of this so-called manifesto. It says administration officials are targets prioritized from highest ranking to lowest.
Marjorie Taylor Greene took to social media Sunday, writing, "I want to know why the Trump admin released Cole Allen's manifesto immediately, but they still keep a tight lid on Thomas Crooks. The FBI under both Biden and Trump has repeatedly said Crooks has acted alone and has released information about Crooks, including his online search history." On Monday, Press Secretary Leavitt was asked about the widespread misinformation.
It's very important to us that we get the truth and the facts about this case and any case out there as quickly as possible to dispel some of that crazy nonsense that you do see running rampant online.
For some, buying a home is $1 million decision, multi-millions even, especially here in San Diego. But some say they are saving thousands of dollars with the help of AI. One Carlsbad buyer told our media partner KGTV he saved money by turning to Turbo Home. It uses artificial intelligence to analyze home values, inspection reports, and market data while cutting down on traditional commission costs. Instead of paying a percentage, Turbo Home requires buyers to pay a flat fee.
So I saved $45,000 by using Turbo Home, and the difference here was I was able to use all the money that I would have spent towards a buyer's agent and use it towards closing costs. Especially in a place like San Diego where the house prices are so high, every small percentage matters and it can lead to some significant cost savings.
AI-powered brokerages are part of a growing trend aimed at cutting commissions that can reach 5 to 6% of a home's price. But there is a trade-off. Foregoing an agent means handling negotiations yourself, understanding contracts, and making sure you aren't overpaying in a competitive market. For millions of Americans, a mortgage is the biggest bill that they will ever carry. But what if you could tear it up years, even decades ahead of schedule? Ivan Rodriguez reports on why paying off your mortgage early could be a good decision and what it means for your wallet.
For many Americans, a mortgage is a 30-year commitment. But what if it didn't have to be? Ted Rossman with Bankrate says paying off your mortgage isn't just a dream. It could be a strategy, and the numbers might surprise you.
Even one extra mortgage payment a year can trim 6 years off a 30-year mortgage. And that can save you $110,000 in interest if you're borrowing $400,000. So that's pretty amazing.
That extra payment could come by way of a tax refund, year-end bonuses, or even a third paycheck some workers get 2 months out of the year. All of it could go straight toward your principal. Depending on your interest rate, it could be even more advantageous.
Now, it also makes more sense if you're prepaying it at 6% versus if you're prepaying at 3%. Like if you're borrowing at 3%, that's a really low rate.
While others might argue that your money could work harder in the stock market, which has historically averaged around 10% annually, Rossman believes living mortgage-free provides people with security and the ability to take more risks with their investments. If you do pay off your mortgage early, he says it's important to still leave enough cushion and savings to cover maintenance, property taxes, and insurance.
I do feel like some of this will come more into play the more rates stay elevated, home prices are elevated. There aren't as many people moving right now. So this could also lead you to try to get that peace of mind of being mortgage free where you are.
I'm Ivan Rodriguez reporting.
Wet weather is impacting agriculture in California's Central Coast. Strawberries are one of California's biggest crops, and as Michaela Richardson reports, the recent rain is having a significant impact on this particular fruit.
There's just so much agriculture in the area, and we're able to grow so many things here. It feels like it's crazy to be buying stuff from far away when we have it all right here.
But Taylor Filler tells me the last batch of locally grown strawberries she bought went bad in less than a week.
We literally just had that this week where I bought some on Wednesday and they were already bad by
a few days later.
Like Saturday. Yeah, so that was definitely different than prior ones we've had.
Edward Lucas explains it's not the grower who's at fault, but the gloomy, rainy weather that's been sticking around the Central Coast.
It makes the strawberry get rotten faster than it normally used to be, where it it don't last as long, especially if you don't keep them in the fridge, and he tried to sell as fresh as possible.
Lucas has known Fabian Garcia for 30 years. Garcia owns Garcia's Fruit and Vegetables, and Lucas offered to translate for my interview with Garcia. Garcia says when the weather is too hot, like the recent heat wave, or too wet, like the last few days, strawberries can be easily impacted because they grow so close to the ground.
Water will make strawberry less sweet, while summer or hotter, it makes it ripen faster and sweeter. Either way, it's gonna go bad.
During heavy rain, a half inch of water could be detrimental to the crop. Berries can split from excess moisture, mold can spread fast, and cause the fruit to rot faster, like Garcia said. Filler says despite the weather impacting the fruit, she's still choosing to shop locally.
Just all the options here and feeling like you're supporting local workers, supporting local farmers, and just getting to see all the different kind of stuff that can be grown here is pretty cool.
All right, breaking down weather headlines here as we're watching a gradual midweek warm up continuing here as temperatures will stay above the historical average both Friday and Saturday. But then as we head later into the weekend and early next week, we're going to watch some cooling and even some showers returning for some locations earlier into next week. Tonight, though, a dry night under a partly cloudy sky, dropping down to 52 in Borrego Springs. Mount Laguna, not bad at 42. Oceanside, a cool 49. San Diego, 56. And Chula Vista, dropping back down to around 53 degrees. We take you into the day on Wednesday where it's dry and nice. A little bit breezy weather continues into parts of Arizona and into New Mexico, but we stay dry and we stay pleasant with some pretty comfortable temperatures. Let's take a look at high temperatures through the day tomorrow. A warm 86 in Borrego Springs, Mount Laguna 56, San Diego 69 degrees. We'll get to 70 in Oceanside and 69 in Chula Vista. So overall, a good stretch of weather here with temperatures continuing to stay pleasant with the warmer conditions across parts of Northern California and the Northwest as we head into the day on Thursday as snow takes over across parts of the Rockies towards the end of the week. All right, we'll take a look the next 5 days across the coast here. We'll keep it into the 70s for the next 4 days, and then a little bit cooler. You'll start to see that drop off as we head into the day on Sunday. Still watching for partly cloudy conditions on Thursday and maybe some showers further inland. And then temperatures warm up Friday and a gradual lowering of temperatures as we head into the weekend. We'll also watch some showers across mountain locations on Thursday, cooler weather by Friday, and then we'll actually warm up as we head into the day Sunday. We take you into desert spots here where it's going to be mostly sunny on Wednesday, 86. Watch for increasing clouds, a shower or two around on Thursday. Hotter on Friday, but then temperatures back off here as the winds kick up on Sunday. For KPBS News, I'm Ariella Scalise.
And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS Newsroom. On NPR's Morning Edition, more than 50 countries are coming together in Colombia to plan a faster phase-out of fossil fuels, the main driver of climate change. And a recent study found an association between the creation of the 988 crisis lifeline and a decline in suicides among young people. KPBS Midday Edition is discussing the study with a psychologist. For the 250th birthday of the United States this year, KPBS is looking back on San Diego's own history. The military can be credited with much of our region's growth. One major military hub in the county is Marine Corps Air Station Miramar. KPBS military reporter Andrew Dyer has more on the past lives of the base.
What's today known as Miramar was once a vast tract of ranch land. It wasn't even called Miramar. San Diego historian Jim Newland says that in the 19th century, the entire area was known as Linda Vista.
So that's sort of north of Mission Valley up that way, right? And so that was just generally known as the Linda Vista versus La Mesa, which is the south of Mission Valley area.
E.W. Scripps renamed the mesa Miramar when he moved into his ranch house here in 1891. The 47-room mansion would take over 7 years to build. The cowboy cemetery from that time still sits on a secluded hillside with ocean views. During World War I, the Army needed wide open spaces to train thousands of soldiers, and quickly. That's when the Miramar area's long history with the military began. Camp Kearney was where the airfield now is. Marine Colonel Eric Herman is the commanding officer of Marine Corps Air Station Miramar today.
There were, thousands of horses and mules, thousands of infantrymen training and prepping to go overseas in battle. And so this land has been in use for over 110 years.
At its height, Camp Kearney housed about 30,000 troops, a number that almost doubled San Diego's population at the time. It had more than 1,100 buildings, including 140 mess halls, all gone today. Newland says the Army built it to be temporary, but it proved pivotal in San Diego's development.
Probably half the folks who got trained at Camp Kearney never saw any action or even got overseas, but it was I think it was very important to sort of lock in that we were open and a viable and very valuable asset to the military.
The Army closed the camp after the First World War. Later, the Navy began using a portion of the camp as an airfield for dirigibles. When the Marines outgrew their base at what's today the Recruit Depot, they established Camp Holcomb in 1934 at the southeast corner of the old Camp Kearney base. It was later renamed Camp Elliott.
Where the 163 meets the 15 stands the ruins of Camp Elliott, a sprawling Marine Corps base where more than 50,000 Marines trained to ship off to the Pacific during World War II. It's where the first Navajo code talkers also trained. Now, all that's left today are these ruins. What was once barracks and chow halls and headquarters are now just empty slabs of concrete.
What we see here, what we believe this is, are kind of the foundations from the headquarters buildings that were over here. There were about 5 different command headquarters on this side at Camp Elliott.
At the time, the base was among the most vital installations supporting the war.
Before Camp Pendleton opened up, really, this was the only training ground to prep young men for what they would see in World War II.
Halfway through the war, the Marines opened Camp Pendleton 30 miles to the north, making Camp Elliott expendable. There was talk of converting the base into a new civilian airport after World War II. But that's another story. In part 2, we'll have more on why that didn't happen, plus the story of a secret ballistic missile site and how the base survived threats to close in the 90s. Andrew Dyer, KPBS News.
Great story there by Andrew, and you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. From all of us here at KPBS, thanks for watching and have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, air, restoration, and flood services for over 45 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.